I'm very excited to introduce our speaker for today, Eileen Schiller. And with that, I'll pass it over to you, Eileen.
Hi, thanks, Vanitha. Hi, everyone. In case we haven't met, I'm Eileen Schiller, and I'm the Manager of Financial and Workplace Program at Wellspring. In that capacity, I partake in the Money Matters program, which is an opportunity for Wellspring members to meet one-on-one with me to discuss the financial side of a diagnosis. So that could be anything from accessing government and workplace benefits to accessing private charitable funds, community resources, that type of thing. I also help with people transitioning back to work, helping with their insurance companies and their employers, and getting people ready to get back to work when treatment is complete. Right now, Money Matters appointments are available, and I'm able to do them by telephone or online through Zoom or Skype or FaceTime. I'm also one of the leaders for our Returning to Work program, which is a 6-week online workshop, and it's designed to help you assess readiness for return to work and also take steps to get ready for work, focusing on communication and self-care and all different parts of the recovery process. So that's just a little bit about me and what I do at Wellspring. So now let's get into the topic at hand, which is COVID-19 financial resources. So what I'll say at the outset is when all of this madness started happening a couple of months ago, the government's put these programs in place very, very quickly. So there are some inconsistencies in the drafting of the rules and some that don't fit together nicely. So you'll see in the slides, I may use the word may because the government hasn't come out with, a definitive position on something, but at least this is going to give you an idea of how the programs are working at the current time. So I'm going to start off with the big one, which is the one that came out that seems to be a lot of people accessing, and this is our Canada Emergency Response Benefit, or what people are calling the CERB. And the bottom line with this program is it's temporary income support. It's provided by the federal government, and it's meant to cover you if you have stopped working because of COVID-19. And in a couple of slides, I'll get into the specific requirements to see if you might be eligible for this program. So in terms of applying for the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, the CERB, it's an online application process. If you don't have a computer at home or don't have access to the internet, there is a phone option for the application. And there are 2 streams of applications to access the CERB. If you would traditionally, because of your loss of job or temporarily laid off because of COVID-19, and you would normally apply through employment insurance, you're going to go through Service Canada. And otherwise, if you're self-employed, otherwise not eligible for employment insurance, you're going to get your CERB through the Canada Revenue Agency. Now, on the Canada Emergency Response Benefit website, it's very, very clearly set out. If we have time at the end, I can take you through the website, and it'll ask you a few questions that'll let you know which way you're going to be applying. They do make it fairly straightforward. If you are applying and being paid through Canada Revenue Agency, the one thing you have to remember is that you have to reapply every 4 weeks for the benefit. How much does it pay? If you're going through the Canada Revenue Agency stream, you're going to get $2,000 deposited in your bank account every 4 weeks. You're going to get the same amount if you've gone through the EI system through Service Canada. You're just going to pay paid bi-weekly instead. You're going to get $1,000 every 2 weeks. For now, the CERB is payable for up to 4 months, as long as you continue to be eligible. And it's taxable. The government is not taking any tax off of the payments. So if you are collecting the CERB or plan to collect the CERB, just keep in mind that at tax time, you're going to be getting a T4. So I want to get a little bit more deeply into the eligibility requirements, because that's sort of the tougher part of the rules. So in order to be eligible for the CERB, you have to be living in Canada and have a social insurance number. You have to have stopped working because of COVID-19, and I'll explain exactly what that means. You have to have either employment or self-employment income of at least $5,000 in 2019 or in the 12 months before you apply. And you also have to have not quit your job voluntarily. So it has to be at the initiative of the employer. So let's look at those a little bit more closely. So one of the requirements, as you saw, is that you have to have stopped working because of COVID-19. So here are some examples of when you might fall into that category. You've lost your job, so you've been laid off or temporarily laid off or furloughed because of COVID-19. So your employer isn't able to employ you because of COVID-19. If you are sick with COVID-19 or quarantined because of it, if you are taking care of somebody else who's in quarantine or sick due to COVID-19, or if you're taking care of children or other dependents because their care facility is closed due to COVID-19. Now, in terms of stopping working because of COVID-19, so you can stop working. It can be at a paid job and employment, but it's also, as we saw on the first slide, if you're self-employed and again have to stop your self-employment, your business, because of COVID-19, you would also be eligible. And they recently changed the rule that you can earn $1,000, up to $1,000 per month, and still continue to collect the CERB. So that would be the situation where somebody's hours have been cut. They're still making an amount under $1,000 per month. Again, if it's because of stopping, if the cut in hours is because of COVID-19 and you meet the other requirements, you would still be able to collect the CERB. So, did not quit voluntarily. This is one that they're still working a little bit out in terms of the interpretation, but what it may mean right now is that you are not entitled to the CERB if you choose or don't want to go to work because you are at risk of getting COVID-19. So for example, you are immunocompromised, or you might live with somebody who's immunocompromised. So those are some situations to contemplate. So what happens in that situation that you just don't feel comfortable going to work? Perhaps you've finished treatment recently, you're planning to return to work, but you're concerned because of COVID-19. The first step is to speak to your employer and see if there are any things that they can do at work to make it a more safe work environment for you. You might also talk to your employer about possible accommodations. In other words, would you be allowed to work from home or work hours when not a lot of people are in your office or workplace? And there is also the opportunity to take a job-protected unpaid leave of absence. So in the context of COVID-19, the Employment Standards Act has been amended to allow for what they call an infectious disease emergency leave. And that would let somebody who is in, let's say, voluntary isolation as a result of their doctor telling them that they really shouldn't be going to work. If it's at the instruction of your doctor, that may be a reason that you are allowed to take an unpaid leave of absence from work. Again, the Employment Standards Act has all the requirements for that, taking that type of leave. But the safest thing, if you are unsure in terms of your status at work and want to ensure that your job is protected, the best thing in this case is to get legal advice, and that doesn't have to mean retaining a lawyer and doing anything formal. It can just be getting some quick advice from somebody. For background information, there is a really good website that's called Steps to Justice, and they have a lot of very interesting and relevant questions and answers regarding CERB eligibility, especially when it relates to employment. If you wanted to speak to somebody, the Law Society of Ontario does have a lawyer referral service. And most of the lawyers will provide you with up to a half an hour of free legal advice. A wonderful, wonderful resource is Pro Bono Ontario. They have a free legal advice hotline, and employment law is one of the areas that they cover. And because of COVID-19, they have increased the number of lawyers that are servicing the hotline. So it's a really, really great place to get some summary legal advice about your situation. And also, our government has community legal clinics that are available to low-income members of the community, and you can find them on the Legal Aid website. You can enter your postal code, and it'll bring up the legal clinic in your area. Just some extra CERB eligibility rules to point out. So if you were somebody who was laid off before COVID-19 started, and you were collecting employment insurance regular benefits, and those are the benefits that are available if you are laid off through no fault of your own, and they come to an end. If at that point you still haven't found work and you're unable to find work because of COVID-19, provided you meet all the other eligibility requirements, you would likely be eligible for the CERB. And similarly, it was expanded also to help seasonal workers. So if you were, for example, somebody who works in gardening and collect typically EI regular benefits during the off season, during the winter months, you've used up those benefits, and then your seasonal work is not available because of COVID-19. Again, that might be an area where you would be eligible for the CERB. And just a couple of things just to consider if you are somebody who's receiving the CERB through Canada Revenue Agency. You may, at the end of the 16 weeks, if you're still eligible and meet the requirements for employment insurance, you may be able to apply for employment insurance regular or sickness benefits. And similarly, as I mentioned, if you're in a situation where you started collecting employment insurance regular or sickness benefits before March 15th, again, you may be able to apply for the CERB after your EI benefits end. Again, if you meet the eligibility requirements for the CERB. And before ending, mentioning about the CERB, I just want you to keep some very important things in mind. A lot of people had difficulty and still are continuing to have difficulty when the CERB came out to reach anybody at the CERB customer service line or through EI. And we're not getting responses about applications they filed, and they ended up going through the other system. So just keep in mind, you can't collect employment insurance and the CERB at the same time. So if that's happened because of administrative delays, just make sure you take steps to stop one of them, and you'll have to pay back any overpayments. And although this was put in very, very quickly, and it's a very quick application, the government has hired extra people to review the applications carefully, and they will be undertaking a detailed review. And if they decide that you didn't qualify for the CERB, there will be a requirement to pay back. They haven't talked about that process yet, but it is in the works. And a lot of people ask, you know, if they're on disability benefits, if they're eligible to apply for the CERB. They would only be eligible if, while they were collecting disability benefits, they were doing some work and they had to stop doing that work due to COVID-19 and met the other eligibility requirements. So again, if they had a small part-time job and the employer furloughed them because of COVID-19, they might be able to apply for and collect the CERB. So just some things to keep in mind. In terms of the provincial benefits, the first one I want to talk about is what they're calling COVID-19 emergency assistance. And that's a program that is available through Ontario Works. However, it's not for people who are on Ontario Works or the Ontario Disability Support Program. So this is for people in a low income situation who are faced with some sort of emergency or crisis situation due to COVID-19. So that could be that they're being evicted from their home. It could be that they are leaving an abusive relationship. It could be that they're in some way concerned about their safety. In this case, they could reach out and apply for the Emergency Assistance Program. It is actually done through, and you apply through Ontario Works, through the online application process. Again, if you don't have access to a computer, you can always call the local office of Ontario Works, and that's easy to find your Ontario Works office. You can call 311 and they would provide you with the local office. Again, Ontario Works will review the application. You'll never get more than what Ontario Works pays somebody on their benefits, but you would get up to that amount. So for example, a single person on Ontario Works receives $733 a month. And then I don't know where they came up with the number of days, but you're entitled to up to 48 days of support. Okay, so again, those are for people that need some help. They are not on social assistance. If you are on social assistance, so either Ontario Works or the Ontario Disability Support Program, the provincial government has put in place what they're referring to as an extended emergency benefit. And this is a discretionary benefit, meaning it's up to your caseworker whether it's provided or not. And it's to pay for things, unexpected costs that you may have related to COVID-19. So cleaning supplies, personal protective equipment, staple foods, things like that. If you apply through your Ontario Works or ODSP caseworker and it's granted, it would be an extra $100 a month for a single recipient, $200 a month for families. And the one qualifier is you cannot be receiving the CERB. There's also access if you are on Ontario Works or the Ontario Disability Support Program. There's a fund in place that's been in place even before COVID-19 called the Housing Stabilization Fund. And that was put in place to help people have stable housing to prevent homelessness. And it provides funds for emergency housing needs. So for example, if you need to move due to an emergent situation, a crisis situation, or you're being evicted and moving to more affordable housing, they may help with rental or moving costs. In certain circumstances, again, if you can demonstrate need, they may also provide help with energy arrears. So any late utility bills where there's a possibility that you would be disconnected. And to access the Housing Stabilization Fund, you would apply through your Ontario Works or ODSP caseworker. Now, Housing Stabilization Fund is the term for the fund in the City of Toronto. If you're in any other regions in Ontario or the Greater Toronto area, it would be available through your municipality. So if you look on your city's website, they will have something similar to the Housing Stabilization Fund to help with rent and utility costs. When the CERB came out, there was a lot of talk about how people on Ontario Works and ODSP would be treated should they receive the CERB. So the only instance where an OW or ODSP recipient would be receiving the CERB would be if they were working to supplement their Ontario Works or ODSP and then they stopped working due to COVID-19 and were eligible for the CERB. So in that case, they decided to give fair treatment and not subtract the CERB dollar for dollar from people's Ontario Works and ODSP benefits. So for example, if you are receiving Ontario Works or ODSP, so you've been receiving it for a period of time, they'll only subtract $900 from your $2,000 monthly payment. If you're applying for ODSP, they'll only count $900 of the $2,000 CERB payment towards your household income. And then the only exception is if you are applying to Ontario Works, they will look at the full amount of your CERB to determine eligibility. So in other words, if you're receiving $2,000 a month, you would likely not be eligible for Ontario Works because it's more than the $733 that Ontario Works pays. Another option for you to think about, again, if you're in a situation where your financial situation has been negatively impacted by COVID-19, you may want to think about speaking to your financial institution to see if you can get a deferral of your payments. And a number of the major financial institutions have undertaken to put this in place. You have to go through an application process and be able to prove that you're in financial need because of COVID-19. Two very important things to think about and just to mention is that if you do have a deferral period, so let's say your bank says that you don't have to make mortgage payments for 2 months, the interest that isn't paid during those 2 months is going to be added to your outstanding principal. So it's not just going to disappear, it'll be added to your principal, and this can affect the total amount you owe and your original payment schedule. So just something to keep in mind. And the other thing is to check with your financial institution to make sure that deferring your payments is not going to affect your credit rating. So you can try and get a commitment from the lender that they're not going to report any late payments. So again, just two important things to mention if you want to go the payment deferral route while it's available. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about relief for families. So one thing that the provincial government put in place to offset the cost of buying materials to support children's learning at home was the Ontario Support for Families. And it's a one-time payment. You must apply for it online. And you can request, it's $200 per child up to age 12. And $250 per child with special needs up to age 21. And there's no income cap on the program. They're not checking how much household income you have. There's no financial eligibility requirements. You just, fill out the application, describe the needs, and you would get the one-time payment. If you do receive the Canada Child Benefit, you will notice, and I think it's today, May 20th, that it gets deposited. An extra $300 per child was added to the May payment. And as you may know, the Canada Child Benefit is calculated based on your tax return from the previous year. So typically in July, the amount is adjusted to reflect the tax return you've filed in April. This year, we have an extension for filing tax returns to June. And to contemplate this, if the government doesn't have your 2019 tax return in time, they're going to continue to pay you your Canada Child Benefit the same amount as previously for July, August, and September. And then they will readjust when they have reviewed your 2019 income tax return. And also for families, if you are the recipient of benefits through the Special Services at Home for Children, so that's our program that helps families who are caring for a child who's developmentally or physically disabled, there is a temporary expansion of the list of eligible expenses. So for example, they're recognizing that community-based activities may be closed, so you may be able to get money for technology like laptops or tablets, things to enhance hobbies and activities, personal protective equipment if it's needed, service delivery fees, that type of thing. And they're also giving the funding for this year, 25% of it in advance. They just want you to save your receipts to document the expenses you've made. And they're also waiving the deadline to file claims for the 2019-2020 year. So that is on the family front. For seniors, you would have seen starting in April that if you receive our guaranteed annual income support payment, our GAINS program, which is the provincial equivalent of the guaranteed income supplement, it's been doubled for 6 months, and again, that started in April. What was recently announced is for those receiving old age security, you're going to get a one-time tax-free payment of $300. If you are also receiving the guaranteed income supplement, you're going to get an extra $200, so $500 in total for somebody that's getting OAS and GIS. I checked again this morning. I had not been able to find out the timing of when that is going to be deposited in people's bank accounts. So not able to give you an indication at this time. And with the OAS and GIS extra payment, there's no need to apply. It's going to be paid automatically. And again, because of the extension to file tax returns, if you are late filing yours past the original April 1st deadline, they're still going to continue paying the GIS and allowance payments for a couple of months. You just have to make sure that you do get the 2019 income tax return in by the deadline of June 1st. Additional relief for seniors, as you may know, if you have a registered retirement income fund, you're required to take a certain amount out each year, and that amount is subject to tax. They've reduced the amount of minimum withdrawals by 25%. So again, you have to take out less and you'll therefore pay less tax. For low-income seniors, you may be able to get either paid or at least subsidized delivery of meals through the Meals on Wheels program. So you can contact your local Meals on Wheels program. If you're a senior in need of your groceries or medication being delivered, again, call 211. Or alternatively, you can go to OntarioCommunitySupport.ca, and that will have available resources in your community. So relief for students. So recently, the government put in place the Canada Emergency Student Benefit, and that provides supports to students and graduates who are unable to work or unable to find work or earning less than $1,000 per month because of COVID-19. It's an online application like CERB, and the students have to attest to looking for a job, to be actively looking for a job. It's payable from May to August, and again, you have to apply for 4 weeks at a time, and it pays $12.50 per month. Or if you're an eligible student with disabilities or dependents, it's $2,000 per month. And the qualifier is you can't be receiving the CERB or employment insurance. So again, this is geared to students who can't find summer employment because of COVID-19. And it's only for students. You have to be enrolled in a post-secondary program between December 1st, 2019 and August 31st, 2020, or you have to have graduated from high school in 2020 or will be graduating in 2020 and have applied for a post-secondary program that's going to begin before February 1st, 2021. Other relief for students, if you have OSAP loans, you're not required to make payments for 6 months, and interest is not going to accrue during that 6-month period. And for 2020-21, they're enhancing the Canada Student Loan Program, widening the eligibility requirements so that more students will be able to qualify for supports and be eligible for a greater amount of money from the program. And they're also going to be enhancing the Canada Summer Jobs Program, so giving more incentives to employers so that more jobs will be available under the Canada Summer Jobs Program for students. And then just some general relief that you may want to take a look at. I made reference to the deadline for filing tax returns is extended to June 1st, so coming up in a couple of weeks, less than a couple of weeks. And as well, the deadline for paying taxes is extended to September 1st, 2020. You would have seen if you received the GST or HST credit that an additional amount was issued in April. And again, even if you don't file your 2019 tax return on time, they're going to continue paying your GST and HST credit until September 2020. So again, definitely still get your 2019 returns in. But again, because you're applying later than April, possibly, it may just take them some extra time to calculate your new payment for the upcoming year, but they will continue to pay you what you were originally getting until it's recalculated. In the area of rent and energy bills, you might have heard that no new rental eviction orders will be issued. And if there's a current eviction order against you, it's going to be postponed for enforcement. What's always available, if you meet the eligibility requirements, is we have the Toronto Rent Bank. And again, if you don't live in the city of Toronto, just go onto your municipality or city website and it'll have something equivalent. And what the Toronto Rent Bank provides are interest-free loans to help you avoid eviction. It's not available if you are on Ontario Works or ODSP because you have other programs there. You have to show them that you have a regular source of income so you will be able to pay it back, and you have to be paying market rent. But again, in an emergency situation, it may be a very good source of funds for you. As you know, we're all paying off-peak electricity rates, so the lower rates, and that's right now until May 31st. I haven't found any talk about it being extended. And although you should check with your local provider, generally, you know, the providers have said that there will be no electricity, gas, or water disconnections if you have an overdue account until July 31st. And they haven't provided details, but again, they have expanded what is our low-income energy assistance program. And that program helps with electricity and gas bills if you're at risk of disconnection, if you have a large amount of arrears. It's income tested, but you call, you make an application, and if you apply, they will provide help with the outstanding payments up to a cap. And then other things to keep in mind if you are having financial struggles because of COVID-19, there are a number of emergency food programs in all different communities, food banks, food delivery, things like that. The City of Toronto is actually providing, if you meet all of their income thresholds, assistance with purchasing pet food and supplies, again, if your household's been affected by COVID-19. If you are at home and aren't able to get out to shop, there are a number of agencies that are providing grocery shopping and delivery services, not for free, but somebody to do the shopping and delivery for you. And as you probably know, there are a number of retailers that also have grocery shopping and delivery services through Instacart, Longo's, that type of thing. And then your best bet is to either go online to 211 or to call 211. And that is each city's Community Resources Hub, and that's where you can ask for resources of any kind, and the person that you're speaking with will have access to a database. So if you wanted to find emergency food programs in your neighborhood, you would call 211, give them the area that you were living in, and they would provide you with the community resources in your area. And similarly with city resources, so if you wanted to ask about the rent bank or the emergency assistance or anything of that nature, it would be 311. And that's available for, again, all municipalities for the government resources. For 211, there's a really good search engine, and you can look up whatever type of resource you're looking for, and it would give you a list of places in your area. And then I realize this is all general. You are more than welcome to reach out to me to set up a Money Matters appointment if you have questions specific to your situation. Easiest way to reach me is by email. So that's moneymatters@wellspring.ca. Or alternatively, you can call me and leave a message at our downtown office, 416-961-1928, and my extension there is 235.
Thank you so much, Eileen. That was so informative. And I know a lot of people would have found that all that information to be super helpful, especially because there is such an information overload in this time of pandemic. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I'll open it up to any questions. So if you do have a question, feel free to put it in the Q&A, to click on the Q&A icon and just type out any questions. And we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. So I guess while we wait for any questions, because I know you did cover a lot of information.
Sure.
If you had to pick, like if I just had to ask you, what would be, I guess, 3 to 5 of your top takeaways from this presentation? Just like as a good summary point.
I think that there are a lot more community resources out there than people know about, you know, especially for people that might be stuck at home. If you're, you know, dealing with treatment side effects and aren't able to go out to do shopping and things like that, there are so many volunteer agencies and community resources right now that are, you know, happy to help out and do the grocery shopping, pick up medication, that type of thing. So I think that's really important. And again, your best starting point for that is 211. You know, it's amazing what you can find just through doing internet searches in terms of coming up with resources and that type of thing. If you are home, again, dealing with treatment, you're likely on a disability or sickness benefits program. So, you know, the programs may not be available to you, but it's worth exploring, you know, if returning to work is in the horizon, that type of thing. So be a couple of takeaways.
Awesome. So thank you for that. And it looks like I think you super thoroughly covered all the information, because it doesn't look like anyone has any questions for now. So if there are no questions, I just want to say thank you, Eileen, for taking the time to put together all of those resources, and for everyone who was able to join us today. And if you do have any questions or you want to go back to any of the information that was on the slides when this is posted on our website, feel free to hop on there just to review this content. So I think with that being said, I want to thank everyone. Oh, I think there might be one question. Perfect. So we have a question. I received CERB and will have surgery in June or July. Do I have to apply to ODSP?
I'd have to know if the person is getting the CERB through through the EI program or through Canada Revenue Agency. So if, you know, it depends what system they're through, because they have to just be very careful, because when you certify for your CERB every month, you're telling the government that you've stopped working due to COVID-19. And in this situation in June and July, that would be no longer the case. They've stopped their surgery, so they may want to make sure that they're on, employment insurance sickness benefits. They may need to just change programs or change their reporting. So I would, if you could contact me, that would be great. I'd be happy to go through your specific situation, and I can help you decide the best thing to do for June, July.
Awesome, thanks, Eileen. And just as a recap, I know you had the email in the slide, but it's moneymatters@wellspring.ca.
Correct. Yes.
Is that the email? Yep. Okay. Yeah. So if in case anyone does have any questions about any of the plans in particular, feel free to contact Eileen, and she'd be more than happy to help discuss your specific case. All right, great. So it looks like that's all the questions we have for today. So I wanted to thank you, Eileen, and thank you everyone for joining us today. And I hope everyone stays safe, healthy, and enjoys the rest of your day.